Boosed contains adult themes and language. Listener beware. Hey y'all, and welcome to another episode of Boosed, where we get supernatural and shit-faced. And today we have a lovely, lovely guest with us. And Sydnee is also here again with us today, 2 in a row. I feel so honored.
Blessed. Hashtag blessed.
Hashtag blessed. Although when we release these, it might be that you've not been here for the one before, so this won't make any sense then. But anyway, we have with us as our guest, Miss Alle. Hello.
Hello.
I said that wrong, didn't I? That's not how you like to have it said, is it?
What, Miss Alle?
Or is it Alle or Alle?
It's Alle.
Okay.
No, it's Alle. It's just spelled funky.
Right. I mean, it's not spelled funky. I'm just saying.
No, it really is just Alle.
Okay.
I'm named after my grandmother.
That's lovely.
Shout out to Grandma Haveman.
Ooh.
Wrong grandma.
Uh-oh.
Shout out to Grandma. Okay, I'm named after both my grandmas. That's why I got confused. So my first name is short for Aileen, but that's not my name. That was my grandma's name. So that's why it's spelled differently, because that's how her name is kind of spelled.
Gotcha.
And then my middle name is Malia, which is Hawaiian for Mary.
Oh.
I am not Hawaiian.
I did not know that's what that meant.
Yeah.
So Malia Obama is named that, I guess.
Well, they lived in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So I think that's where he got it. But yeah, I'm older, so yeah, he saw my name and was like, Naturally. That's beautiful. I'm gonna name my black daughter Malia as well.
Well, I think if I remember Michelle's book properly, it's short for something.
Okay.
Like Malia is not her full name.
Oh, it's not? Okay, I didn't know that.
No, Sasha. Sorry, no, I'm wrong.
Yeah,
wrong daughter.
I'm like, Malia is a full name. Like, that is a name.
Not to disparage the Hawaiian culture in your name choices.
No, yeah, Malia means Mary.
Gotcha.
So it could be biblical for them.
Sasha is short for something, though.
Okay, that makes sense.
Can't recall quite what it is right now, so.
We're very good, well-educated black women.
We are. For other things that matter, not necessarily the names of the first children. So
Shakespeare.
Yes. We know all the Shakespeare. And, I don't know, maybe we'll recite some for you today here, but probably not.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes.
I would totally do some Shakespeare.
Oh, yeah, you have some right top of mind, because you just did a show.
I just did it. And, yeah, I just did a show as Demetrius. I did.
That was awesome. It was a great show.
Thank you.
I don't think I've ever laughed that hard at Shakespeare.
Oh,
I was cracking up.
I'm going to cry.
It was so good, and all the physicality was great.
That was my favorite part of it, is like you said, and like other women said, like, you didn't just stand there and say things. You like moved around and showed us the story. I'm like, yeah, that's the way it should be.
It definitely made it easier to understand.
Good.
Because Midsummer, I'm going to say, is probably not my favorite, but I don't think I've ever read it all the way through. I've only ever seen like other people do adaptations of it. Yeah. And it's always kind of a snooze fest for me.
Yep.
So this one was definitely a game. I liked it a lot.
That makes me so happy. I respect your opinion.
Oh, well, thank you. Good job. So, tell us a little bit more about yourself then. So you're an actor, I take it. Or you just do Shakespeare every once in a while.
I am a theater artist, as I like to say now. And I act. I am trying to get into writing. Mm-hmm. Not I'm trying to. I am getting into writing. I am a graduate from Texas Women's University.
Whoop, whoop.
Shout out to the pioneer women out there. I'm drunk.
My mom and sister are pioneer women.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
Honestly, no, I did not love my time there. But I love the idea of TWU. I mean, I think itself as a school is great. Theater program, meh. But I got to be on stage a lot. It was very cheap, considering my other option was SMU.
Yeah.
It's very, very cheap. So, and they're the only school that didn't ask for my dad's tax returns. whenever I applied.
Okay.
I was like, my dad is poor, and they were like, okay, we'll take your word for it. Come on in. Every other school was like, we need proof that you're poor.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't have that because my dad and I don't do taxes. So I am this year, though. First year doing taxes.
Yes.
But yeah, I am also, some like to call me an activist. I don't know that I agree with that title, but even my sister said it the other day, so I was like, okay. Hashtag not in our house, hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag say her name. So yeah.
Nice.
Hashtag actor life.
Hashtag actor life. Yeah. So yes, I'm excited because you're definitely going to have a writer credit on that soon. And
Yes,
then
I am.
another project I have in mind. I'm writing another play. That's a little bit more kind of recent topical that I've gotten stuck that maybe you might want to work on that. So we'll chat. But yeah. For those of you who don't know, I have a web-ish, series-ish. It's a few videos on the web.
Yeah.
That
it's a series. 3 is a series.
There's only 2.
Then it's not a series yet.
It's soon to be a series. Yeah. It's aspiring to be a series, we should say. An aspiring series, much like my acting career. But no. It's called hashtag actor life.
Okay, Camille, do you have your slides with you?
Oh no, I've prepared an original piece. Oddly enough, I'm wearing a shirt that says hashtag actor life.
Yeah.
But has no relation. Absolutely
this
no
is
relation.
Not your shirt?
It's
you
not
didn't make
my
this
shirt. No.
Oh, okay. I just figured you made that shirt, honestly.
No. I mean, I'm not above making...
I know.
I made myself a shirt for this podcast, so...
Yeah. No, I know. That's why I figured it was like a shirt that you designed.
No, it's not. It is a lovely shirt, and it's like one of my favorite colors. So, but there's a lovely company called Thespian Heart Clothing and Apparel.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, so this is a shirt from their line, and I was like, oh my god, it's hashtag actor life. That's so kismet. It works. So yeah, anyway, back to you.
It's back to me. I mean, I don't know. I have a dog named Sassy.
Nice.
I haven't been this drunk in a while. I just sent a risky text.
Uh-oh.
So I'm thinking about that a little bit.
Well, then we'll take your mind off of that. So how about, in order to distract from the risky text messages, we can come back to them later, but
all right.
What will you be speaking on today?
Today, I will be talking about the Lalaurie Mansion in New Orleans.
Yes.
Oh my god, I didn't write down the address. Wait, I gotta look up. Let me look up the address because this is what people know the house as because they don't like to say the name, so they call it this instead.
I didn't know that, but I feel like a lot of people know that house, like who are familiar with the story because I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah,
it's like on the corner of the street in the middle of the square.
Yep,
so
it is. It's the corner. Let's see what it's called.
If you've watched American Horror Story, you've seen the exterior of it.
Yes.
Sydney is not familiar, so we're gonna look up the address for Sydney.
Yeah. God, where the?
That was not on your stop, Sydney, on your birthday trip.
Okay.
Not visiting haunted mansions for your birthday.
Did you go to New Orleans?
This was when I turned 27.
But did you go to New Orleans?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
She had a grand time. She didn't go to the house.
You might have walked past it.
Maybe.
Okay, I found it. So it's 1140 Royal Street, New Orleans, Louisiana 70116. That is what a lot of people call it. Is just 1140 Royal Street.
Oh, interesting.
Because they don't want to say the name because they are ashamed of this house, as they should be. So that's what I'm going to talk about today.
All right. Well, let's hear why they should be ashamed of this house.
All right. I'm going to go into the history a bit before I go into the hauntedness.
Bring it.
Of it. So, the house was owned by Madame Delphi Lalaurie. I do not remember her maiden name, I will be honest. But she was born around 1780. The first thing I gotta say, there are a lot of conflicting reports about Madame Lalaurie's life and the dates and the deaths and the details. So I'm just going to say what I've read. But just know that there are many different accounts out there. So just her birth date. Earlier today, I read that it was actually different from what I have written down. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, it's just, there's not a lot of good bookkeeping in the 17 and 1800s. So, she was born in 1780, New Orleans. She was Creole, which, I thought Creoles were only black people, but apparently you can be white and be Creole.
I did not know that.
It's just a French thing, I guess. So, she's very, very fucking French. Can I curse?
Yeah.
Okay, she's very fucking French. She was married 3 times. 2 of her husbands died. Honestly, I would think that was suspicious if it wasn't the 1700s. Yeah, exactly. I was like, but that's not even the suspicious part of the story.
Right, where people died of colds on a daily basis.
Exactly. She was she was married in 1800, and then again in 1808, and then again in 1825. Her last husband was considerably younger than her.
Get it?
Yeah, she became the sugar mama. The roles were flipped during this last, because she was considered sort of a gold digger in her first 2 marriages. Anyway, she married Leonard Louis Nicolas Lalaurie. He was a surgeon, and much younger than her. And so, in 1831, they bought 1140 Royal Street in the French Quarter. So, she was a wealthy woman living in New Orleans in the late 1700s to the early 1800s. So, of course, she had slaves, because slavery was still legal at this point. But she was said to treat them very nicely in public. She was very nice to slaves and to people of color in general, because there were freed people of color living in New Orleans. And she was even said to have freed 2 slaves during her time there. So, people were like, she's great. She's super nice. She's super pretty. She's super smart. I read somewhere that it said she was also a doctor, but I'm like, I don't think women were doctors at this point. So, I don't know if she just studied anatomy or something. I don't know.
Right.
It was in a very poorly produced video, so I took everything that guy said with a grain of salt, because it is not a very good video. But he called her a doctor. That's cool. So, she owned some slaves, and people thought she was great, but they thought there was a couple things that were weird. First of all, they thought she didn't have enough slaves. They were like, she's got a big old mansion. It's like a 3-story mansion, huge mansion on the corner of the French Quarter, and she only, maybe had 2 or 3 that would appear at a time. And then every time someone came for a dinner party, they would see new slaves. And they were like, she didn't have very many slaves. And also there was a high turnover of slaves at her house. This is strange, but they, looked past it, because she threw a mean dinner party. And they loved coming to her dinner parties.
You overlook a lot of things when it's free food.
You're right. And you get to dress up, you get to have a good time.
Entertainment, food.
Yeah, a nice house that you get to drink in that's not yours. So they overlooked it, whatever. So, from 1831 to 1834, atrocities were committed in this house. She had an attic in the house that locked from the outside that she kept some slaves in. And, wait, let me back up a little bit. Just there were 2 accounts of mistreatment of slaves that people actually did notice. So at one point, and this was interesting because they said the slave's name over and over. Her name was Leah. And she was a 12-year-old slave girl who was brushing her hair one day, Madame's hair. And she accidentally pulled it or tugged on it. And Madame went into a rage, grabbed a bullwhip, and started just whipping this girl. And the girl's running, and there's a couple different accounts. In one account, the neighbor heard screaming and could see from her window into the mansion's window her chasing her with a bullwhip, saw the girl run up to the roof, jump off the roof to her death to avoid being whipped by this woman. Another account is that the policeman caught her digging in her backyard while she's trying to bury this 12-year-old girl that has jumped from the roof or been pushed or fallen, quote-unquote, off the roof. So, that was like the first time where people were like, something's up. And although slavery was legal, there were laws that said you could not do certain things to slaves. You had to feed them. You had to give them shelter, like things like that. You had to not torture them, basically, was how low the bar was. And she was doing that. And so a lawyer came out to the house, investigated, found no wrongdoing, really, besides this dead child, and fined her $300, which is like, I don't know, a few $1,000s in today's money, and made her sell like 9 of her slaves. But she found a loophole. Her family bought the slaves back, and then she bought the slaves from the family. So the slaves came right back to her house, and the police did nothing. Okay, so in 1834, only 3 years later, there was a fire that broke out in the mansion. Apparently, while she was having a dinner party, this fire broke out. And the dinner party guests left and went to a party somewhere else. I don't know. Like, they moved the party? Like, I don't know. They were just like, oh no, a fire. Let's go drink somewhere else.
It's a real downer to a party.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just, like I said, conflicting reports. But, so the fire breaks out, and either they or the firefighters, it's conflicting reports. So many conflicting reports. Go up to the attic to try to release the slaves. And Madame Lalaurie will not give them the key. And so either the door burned down or somebody kicked it down. They walk in and they see just a horrible torture chamber of slaves. I will not get into it because you can find that shit online. And it is very disturbing. It is very human centipede-ish. And I don't really need to talk about it. But it was awful. A lot of them were still alive. At least 9 of them were alive and being tortured. And apparently, no one knew. They were like, what? What's going on? This is crazy. Wait, who did this? And by the time they came downstairs, apparently she had fled. They never saw her again. They have no idea where she went. Some people say she died in Paris. Some people say she came back to New Orleans as a commoner and continued torturing people. No one knows. She died, let's see. She died around 1842, but they don't know if it was actually in New Orleans or if it was in the French Quarter. So, turns out, so she had a slave, a 70-year-old female slave, chained to her oven so that she could not leave. She was just there to cook. And what a life. Oh my God. And this slave feared her so much that she actually set fire to the house. And she somehow survived the fire.
Wow.
And so when the police and the firemen got there, she was still alive, and she confessed and said, yes, I set fire to the house because I was afraid that she would take me to the attic. And when slaves go to the attic, they do not come back down.
Right.
So that's what happened. The house burned, the interior of the house burned a lot. And then once people in the French Quarter found out what she had done, they ransacked her house. They tore it apart, broke or stole anything that wasn't nailed down. And the house was empty for like 30 or 50 years. So that is what happened in the house in the 1800s, in the early 1800s. So after that, it remained empty for a while, and there were rumors that said that vagabonds who would come through and try to like squat in the house would never come out. It was just rumors, but the neighbors said that they heard wailing and screaming in all hours of the night from this house that had been empty for years. So after it had been empty for a while, it was later turned into an all-girls boarding school, like you do.
Very nice, yeah. As one does.
And it was during the Restoration time, so this was after the Civil War. They're trying to restore the South. And so at first it was a mixed school, and they were like, no, we don't like that. So they made it an all-white school. And then they were like, no, the school sucks. Let's make it an all-black school. I don't know. But it turned into an all-black female school. And the girls, who were said to be very young, like I saw one account that said they were 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. So, very young girls would come to the headmaster and show their arms, and they had like bruises and cuts and sores on their arm. And when he asked them like who did this, they would say that woman. They would only say that woman. They didn't know who it was. And you would assume that if they're that young, they don't know what's happened in that house. Because it happened before they were born. And no one's telling
advertising
8-year-olds, yeah, hey, by the way, slaves were tortured and mutilated in the attic here. So, I don't know. Was it pranks? Was it actually the ghost of Madame Delphi? Who knows? But these girls complained enough, and eventually the school got shut down. After that, it was turned into a music conservatory and like dance performance hall place. And what was that? What happened? Oh yeah. So, where is it? I'm looking at my notes. 1882, music conservatory. So it's going well. They're like, oh, this has been revived. Everything's fine now. You know, we're making a comeback here at the French Quarter. And then, like the day before a huge performance at this music conservatory, the newspapers print an article, basically a #MeToo article about the director of the school who has been having inappropriate relations with the girls there, i.e. raping or sexually harassing underage girls at this musical conservatory. And it took a day. A day later, the school was shut down.
Wow. Again,
the house is vacant for years. After that, when did this guy come in? I think this was, yes. So in between that and where its ownership after that, this guy, I don't know, like, I tried to look this guy up. I mean, I didn't try that hard, but I did look up a few things on this guy. I could not find anything except that he had died in this house. His name was Jules Vinny. And every single article I saw about him described him as eccentric. I don't know if that was code word for gay, but that's how I'm going to interpret it. So this gay guy was squatting at this house, and he died. They discovered his body there in the late 1800s, and he was living in squalor, they said, but the thing is, they discovered his dead body on like a cot or something, or just like seriously like a blanket and a pillow. That was all he had. But right next to him, he had a huge bag of money, and in all the surrounding rooms, he had like treasure and jewelry and gold, all this material wealth. But he was not paying rent. He was not like renting the house. He had snuck in and was living there and died there.
I mean, that just sounds like smart.
Right, he was saving.
A little
right?
overhead, yeah, all savings.
Yeah, but no one, I don't know how he died. They just kept saying they discovered his body, so I don't know if he was very old or what, but this eccentric man died with all this wealth around him while it seemed as though he was living in squalor. And if he was killed by someone else, why did they not steal literally the giant bag of gold next to him?
Right.
As he
would make sense.
Died, right? So, after that, the buildings were eventually bought by people who there was a big immigration swell coming to America. There's a lot of Italian Americans coming into this area. And so, landowners are finally buying the property despite the fact that, there's spooky stuff happened. So, they're like, we're going to buy this and we're going to turn it into apartments. They convert it into apartments. They sell it for really cheap. And so mostly Italian immigrants start buying the apartments. But they start coming to the landlord and complaining. These Italian immigrants are complaining about one specific guy said that he was chased by a black man in chains. And then whenever he turned around or confronted him, the black man disappeared. Other people, children specifically, said that they were chased by a woman with a whip. And just all sorts of like screaming, yelling, moaning. And so basically this landowner, I keep touching this, I'm so sorry. So people, the tenants keep complaining about, you know, sounds and moaning and scratching and all sorts of things like that, all hours of the night. And so eventually this landowner has to sell because they cannot get anyone to rent because people are moving out and telling everyone, don't move into this house. And so it's unoccupied again. And then after that, so that was the late 1800s. And then it was I don't know, not refurbished. It was remodeled in like the early 1900s. It was restored, I guess, is maybe a better word, because they kept the outside looks exactly the same, but the inside, I'm sure, has changed a lot. And while they were restoring it in the early 1900s, the construction crew came across a makeshift graveyard in their backyard. Just bodies unceremoniously dumped there. They have no information, no death certificates or anything, no gravestones. Not only that, they found bodies buried under the floorboards in the house. They found bodies in the walls of the house. Just skeletons everywhere that have been there, you know, almost 100 years by now. And so they clean it all out, I'm assuming. I'm hoping. Please, God. They clean it all out. And
do some smudging.
Yeah, they did a bit of smudging. And after that, it has jumped around ownership. I don't think someone owned it for more than, I think they said 5 years was the max that anyone has owned it. But you want to know who bought it? Do you want to guess who bought it? Do you guys know?
I feel like I know, so I don't necessarily want to guess.
Okay.
Is it Nicolas Cage?
It is Nicolas Cage.
Yeah,
Nicolas
I remember
Cage
that.
bought this house in 2007 for $3.4 million. And they say that there's a curse on the house because Nicolas Cage went bankrupt soon after that.
Oh, no.
And I don't know if that's the house's fault or the
movie choices.
Who knows, really? But it ended up going back on the market in 2009 when he went bankrupt. I just thought that was so weird. And now it is actually owned by an oil tycoon from Texas, whose name I did not find. But it's so funny because some sources say, like, he owns it, but no one lives there. No one ever goes there. But I went to New Orleans, like, 5 years ago, maybe? And I went on a ghost tour, and we went by the house, and they said the same thing. It's owned by an oil tycoon who lives in Texas. But they said that he comes down there every, like, Memorial or Labor Day weekend and throws a huge party at this house and just, like, parties it up. What a white thing to do. Like, you know, I don't know who this guy is, but I know he's white. I will eat my shoe if he's not. But I just was like, who would want to live? Who would want to stay in this house for more than even 30 minutes? I mean, so.
Oh, I think so. You mentioned like there was bodies buried.
Yes.
Like how
in the house.
How stinky was 1780 that you don't realize that there's rotting corpses in the home?
This is my big thing. All the sources I read, this is my big thing is that, like, when the town found out, they rioted and they stormed the house. But how do these people who are having dinner parties at their house every weekend or every month even not smell that shit?
Yeah.
Because there was also in the attic, they said that there were dead slaves buried in the floorboards of the attic. How do you not smell there's dead bodies and this is only 3 years. This is from 1831 to 1834.
Yeah. And even that, if you have like people in a torture chamber, like they're using the bathroom.
They smell of death as well, even if they're still alive. That was my big thing is I do not buy for a second. They make it sound as if she is the only one in on it. They even said that her husband was never really there.
And did she have, like, I know the show American Horror Story said she had children. She had children, though, too, right?
She did. She had 5 children from 2 different men. 2 of the daughters lived in this mansion with them. I don't know what happened to the other 3 children. They're not there, though. And there was a couple different accounts that said that they did try to stop her in some way, or fed the slaves when they were starving, or tried to free them at one point, and they were also whipped. But again, I don't know that I buy that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, is your mom really that terrifying that you never said anything or did any, like, it... I don't buy that. And the dinner parties, I fully believe that she invited the most elite, wealthy, racist people to her house and showed them what she was doing. Like, I don't believe that this was a secret. I think that once it came out, everyone had to act surprised.
Naturally, of course.
Yeah,
right.
you can't support that.
Yeah.
As a wealthy liberal in New Orleans, you can't support this.
As a wealthy white slave-owning liberal.
Well, they just said that there were slaves chained to the wall and slaves hanging from the ceiling. How would a tiny little white woman have done that alone? There's just no way.
Right.
Because they were mostly men, from what I've read. They were mostly men, so if they were male slaves, you know that they are young, that they are strong, that they have some sort of reason why they are slaves, right? They are not old, they are not super young. They are not scrawny. They are not
feeble,
disabled,
yeah.
right? They don't have any disabilities. They are, like, young and able to do things around the house, and that's why they are slaves. Besides the fact that they are black, anyway. So it's. I do not buy for a second that this was a secret. I think it was a secret to the bigger population. But I don't think that the other wealthy elite that were in her inner circle didn't know. There's just no way. There's no way.
Yeah, it couldn't have been that smelly in the 1780s.
No!
Like, I know people were, like, shitting on this floor, but, like, chamber pots were a thing. But still, there's a difference between rotting corpse and
decay.
poop. Right.
And again, 3 years. This is only 3 years. It's not as if those bodies have been there 10 or 15 years and they've already decayed and are skeletons.
Right.
There are rotting bodies underneath the floor while you're having dinner. And you don't smell that?
Ugh.
You know? So I don't believe that shit for a second. I really don't.
I wonder if she ate any of them.
Oh.
My theory is, like, maybe there's sex things going on.
Oh, hell
If it's
yeah.
mostly guys, I'm thinking about what
Hell yeah.
the dude said in Get Out. Like,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
kidnapping people and, like, yeah, sure, they're doing stuff around the house, but she's also definitely
Hell
fucking
yeah.
all these slaves.
Oh, yeah. And that was one of the theories. Okay, that's another thing that pisses me off is when I watch these videos or read these articles, at the very end, they always end with, "We'll never know why she did it." And I'm like, what? Like, I feel like it's pretty obvious why she did it. She's a racist sadist. I mean, there's no other... There are some people who were like, she might have been investigating a revolt. There was a slave revolt that happened on a different property that I think killed her mother. Her mother was killed in response to this, like, slave uprising on a different property. And so some people said, well, she might have been interrogating these slaves to try to get information. I'm like, fucking bullshit. And no. And then another source said she might have been upset because her dad and her uncle and, like, other male relatives were known to have relations with slave women.
Naturally.
And yeah, I'm like, as did every other white slave owner at that time. I mean, so I think there's just no way it wasn't racial, and the way that she kept them alive, there's no way it wasn't
Sadistic.
sexual. Yeah, sadistic, and to me that leads to sexual. I mean, I don't. And her husband had to know. Also, that's another thing, is, like, her husband had to be in on it, even if he wasn't there every single day. There's no way he didn't know, because he also fled with her once all this shit went down. He also left, so.
Crazy.
My question is, why are they burying them in the house?
I think they ran out of room in the backyard, because they buried in the backyard. But they said there were also people buried under the floorboards, like in pits under the house. There was also people, in between.
But you think of, like, people like that. I
But
mean,
I'm just,
they're it's something to get off on.
So that's part of the sadist.
Yeah, it's like what's this? Is it Gacy who? No, he wasn't the one who was the co-ed. Yeah, the one who was the co-ed killer. And he, like, was burying them outside his mom's window with their heads looking up at her window, because he said she always wanted people to look up to her.
Oh God, I don't remember that.
Yeah, no. Oh God, which serial killer is that?
That was not John Grant.
It's not John Wayne Gacy. I don't think so. He's the co-ed killer, and I think Gacy is known as something else. But it's on the show, on that show on Netflix, Mindhunter. Have you seen that? That's so
no,
good.
I haven't watched Mindhunter.
It's good.
But also, yeah, American Horror Story. If this sounds familiar, American Horror Story had a character based on
that whole
Delphi.
season was pretty much.
Yeah, but it's obviously they take liberties, but they really don't know where her body is. They never found her body. They don't know where she died. So the series kind of like jumps off from there of, well, what if she did come back and she was buried in New Orleans and we resurrected her for some fucking reason?
Yeah.
Why did they do that?
I forget the plot of that season. It was a good season. It's
It
one of
was
my
a
favorites.
good season, but I don't remember why they brought her back to life.
No, because it was all because of...
Wait, no, she
it
was
was
already...
Angela Bassett's character.
And she was already immortal, right?
She was immortal.
She was just buried. She wasn't dead.
That's right.
Kathy Bates' character?
Kathy Bates' character.
Kathy
But I feel
Bates.
like Angela Bassett buried her, and then they dug her up for some reason and made her the maid.
They dug her up. Maybe just
remember.
to make her the maid. Just kill her.
There
Kill
was a
that
lot.
bitch.
There was a lot going on in that season.
Yes.
To be like, it's supposed to be terrifying. I think she's just a very good, like,
She was
villain.
great. She was great.
She's done some villainous shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, like I told you earlier, like this, I tried to like look up other topics, but I just could not stop reading about this because it was so villainous. It was so disgusting, and reading about just the rumors even was just, oh God, it was so...
And it's so interesting from the standpoint is like you don't necessarily hear a lot about female serial killers.
Yes, and she was a serial killer.
She was a serial killer.
She was.
And most of the female serial killers you hear about, if they're not, modern day, mercy killers, so to say, quote unquote mercy killers, it's all women from older eras who had power.
Yep.
And over another group. And so they just went on these horrible torture, murder, killer sprees because they could.
Yep. I mean, the real monster here is white supremacy. It is, and it's white privilege. I mean, okay, I didn't talk about, like, I think I mentioned this, but yeah, they had a lawyer/investigator come to that mansion twice to investigate her to see if there was any wrongdoing. And both times, the guy left saying, I had a delightful time. It was fine, and I had fun, and she's very nice and pretty, and everything is fine here. How, again,
Or
if there are dead people in your fucking floorboards.
She let me rape one of the slaves.
Exactly.
Probably what that comes down to.
Or she sucked my dick.
Yeah.
Really? Apparently she was very good at giving head because like these men were
that
just
in the-
like nothing unusual going on here. Everything's fine. I don't know. Like, it's just, like, I do not think anyone else could have gotten away with this. For 3 years she was doing this. And, yeah, like I said, I do not believe that no one knew. They just make it, all the articles I read, all the sources I read, they make it seem like she was the only one doing it. And there's just no way.
Yeah,
There's
that's
no
impossible.
way. There's no way.
Impossible. Even, I can't believe that either.
No.
It's so ridiculous. So you went on a tour of the house?
I did. So I went to New Orleans like 5 years ago or so, and we went on a ghost tour, and we went to a bunch of different houses. And one of the stops was 1140, what is it?
Royal
Street. And it was creepy. Like we did the tour from the opposite side of the street. I think the tour guide said that she didn't like to get that close to the house. But you could feel it. Like, I definitely very much believe in energy and very much, like, believe in ghosts and spirits and all that good stuff and bad stuff. And from across the street, I just felt like I could feel, like, just this pressing, like, darkness. Like, my heart was racing. I couldn't believe the things that had happened in this mansion and the fact that it was still standing. Like, I didn't understand, like, why they didn't tear it down because so many terrible things had happened. It was very creepy. I would love to go back now that I know, like, more about it and more about the whole story and, like, what it's been since then. I would love to go back and, like, try to experience that again. Because when I first went to New Orleans, that was the first time I'd ever heard about the story. They were just telling me in, a a minute or two of their little spiel of whatever the house was about. And so I'd love to go back now that I know a little more about it. Yeah.
What's going on with it today? What is it today?
It's owned by that oil tycoon.
So nothing is happening in the house until
No, okay, so that was another thing I read about, was that there was a medium who recently, and by recently I mean like early 2000s, went to the house, went on the ghost tour, and she was doing her little thing, and they got to the house, and before they even started speaking, she said something like, that's another story I forgot to tell. There was a slave who once jumped out of one of the 3-story windows to his death as well, to avoid torture. And so the madame had the window bricked up and like cemented up, and you can still see it in pictures today.
Oh, wow.
It's like the second window from the left is like just a cement block. And so the medium who was on this ghost tour saw that and was like, oh, that window's cemented up. And the tour guide was like, yeah, they probably did remodeling or something. And she was like, I don't think so. And she was like, but that's not where the little girl jumped from, was it? And the tour guide was like, no, there was a little girl who jumped from the roof. So this medium was like guessing all these things that were true about the house. But she did say that whatever spirits were there from Madame Delphine Lalaurie were no longer there, that they had passed on. And I think it's because in the early 1900s, when they were remodeling and they discovered all those bodies, I think that they did dig them up and, investigate them and put them somewhere else.
Yeah, properly bury them at least.
Exactly. I think that's my theory, is that once those bodies were exhumed, maybe that's not the word. I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of technically the word.
Yeah. Okay. So once they were taken out and moved somewhere else, it did go. There aren't necessarily those specific ghosts haunting it, but I mean, the French Quarter is just a very ghostly place. It's a ghastly place.
Yeah, the whole city's crazy.
Yeah.
So what's like the craziest ghost story out of the house? Like, is there anything that's like completely bonkers? Like, I know a lot of people haven't lived there very much, so it's kind of hard to get a good story from it.
Some people, I mean, very, like the guy who turned it into apartments first, I mean, he lived there, I think, for like less than a year or something, and he was like, this is too creepy, so he tried to rent it out, and he said he couldn't get people to stay there for more than a few days.
Wow.
But I think the creepiest one for me is that children, specifically children, have repeatedly reported being chased by a woman with a whip. And that is just... And again, these are children who wouldn't know the story.
Right, absolutely.
Wouldn't have... Their parents aren't telling them before they go to sleep, by the way.
Yeah, please.
You know... So if they're just waking up and saying, I had a nightmare, or, running to the parents' room, like, hey, this woman was chasing me with a whip, like, that to me is the creepiest part.
Yeah, and that would be such a specific nightmare to have.
Yeah.
And if they've never had that kind of dream before, it's only been since you've come to this certain place where this is known to happen.
And the fact that it was mostly immigrants renting it out, and young black girls in the boarding school. So these are all non-American people.
Right.
Girls, boys who are, repeating that this white woman has, terrorized them in some way.
Ooh.
Which, same.
That's crazy. I'm surprised, like, the city didn't at some point just take it over. Because I feel like, revenue, tours.
Yes, exactly.
But...
And
maybe it's just too gruesome,
I mean, maybe the property tax is so high that billionaire is paying them enough money. But like I said, I'm surprised that it wasn't just torn down, because it very much is a shame of the city.
It's a stain.
Yeah, it's a stain. And like I said, I don't think it was that big of a secret, but I think that once it came out, the city had to pretend that it was.
Yeah.
And just, we're so ashamed. This is awful. This is horrible. I can't imagine that this has happened in my backyard. But it's still standing. It still looks exactly the same.
Yeah, we should do an episode where we just talk about haunted places that are still standing, because the murder house is still in Chicago. I should go see the murder house when I'm in Chicago. Murder Castle. Do you know about that one?
Is that from American Horror Story?
No. It's like, it's allegedly America's first serial killer, A.A. H.H. Holmes.
Yes.
But the building that he built and
Yes.
committed all those crimes in is now like a post office.
What?
Yeah, and people's the same thing. Like it burnt, or maybe it burnt down and like they rebuilt and it's a post office. But I feel like the bones of the building were still there.
Yeah.
And they turned it into a post office. Well, it is. They didn't initially turn it into post, but people stormed the building and were like ripping it apart and burning it down. And still somehow it was managed to be mostly salvaged and then converted into something else.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know how or why this building is still standing. I don't know.
Well, now it's like a tourist attraction.
It is,
sure.
but like still, you're not allowed to take tours in there. You're
Yeah.
not allowed in. The only people who are allowed in are the
tile king,
the Texas oil tycoon, and all his good old boys.
I want to know who it is.
I know, me too. I wonder if I could find it right now because honestly,
Is that like something you can search on Zillow or something?
I'm gonna look it up.
Previous owners on Zillow. Just
Who
like...
owns Lalaurie Mansion? Can I go inside?
You've never heard that before?
No,
It's fucked up, man.
that is awful.
I had heard it before American Horror Story. And then, of course, when American Horror Story came out, like I looked more into it and
I
really...
saw parts of that season, and I didn't know if this character was just made up. And, you know, Kathy Bates did great, but
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was based in true
No,
events.
It's so wild, and the way that they do it is so it's very much like
Comical.
there are some comical parts, but it's very much like trauma porn to me.
Yeah.
Just very heavy on the torture of black bodies,
Which is
just,
like, it's like why you're saying, like, why is that house still there?
exactly.
Like, for people to come by and just,
Exactly.
like, revel in that darkness is weird.
Exactly, and that people buy it and go there for vacation. You go to a fucking slave torture house for vacation. That's why I know they're white.
For white people, though, like today, that seems weird.
Really?
But you know what? I'm always underestimating white people.
Hello, 2016 election.
The bar is too low. Yeah, no, I can't find it.
So, if you know of any oil tycoons in Texas, please ask them if they own any property in the
I've been to an
Netherlands.
oil tycoon's house in Texas.
Really?
And that is like,
Oh, I
Was
bet.
it crazy?
that's a different kind of,
Rich, yeah.
like, it's like, I don't know, it's like capitalism and just like,
God, capitalism.
It's like Pornhub rich.
fuck,
That's why it's still
how
standing.
can anybody have so much? Like,
I just read a story in an article online, and it was about this homeless man who lives basically across or nearby where Mark Zuckerberg lives. And he basically every night goes through Mark's trash and takes stuff.
and finds an iPad.
Right?
Well, no, I mean, no, he has said, so this is a story. It's really sad because it's this man who's a veteran who is now facing homelessness. He's living in I think it's San Francisco area, wherever Mark Zuckerberg lives.
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
So he's living in like a homeless halfway house, I guess, but it's nearby. And probably, I think they said they kept mentioning across the street. So I don't know if it's literally across the street from Zuckerberg's property or just near enough where he can go through his dumpster that he uses. But he does dumpster diving every night and he finds items and resells them. And he's like, I have found nearly brand new coffee makers. He's like, I have found designer clothing just thrown in the trash. He's like, I find all sorts of like bicycles, children's toys, because they have kids, He's like, things that are not in bad shape that have just been thrown away. And apparently, we all know San Francisco housing prices are bananas. But that's a thing in San Francisco and some other cities, of course, naturally, where people will go dumpster diving and resell, to all these rich neighborhoods and resell items that are still usable and good to just make money. He's like, I make maybe $40 a day reselling this stuff.
That is like,
and that's my goal, $30 to $40. That's if I can make that a day. He's like, I have all this trash sitting in my apartment. I just, And it's illegal. That's the thing. Like, this man has exposed himself in this article for doing this illegal thing.
It's illegal?
Once the city has this rule that once the trash is set out in a trash receptacle, technically it's the property of the waste management company.
I thought since the Patriot Act, it was legal to go through anybody's trash.
Well, I mean, if you're the government.
Okay,
right, yeah.
okay.
Right, you know.
Aren't we not all the governments?
Yeah, yes.
If you voted, you're
the
technically
kind of the
government, so you can go through anybody's
Yeah, maybe you can. I was like, this poor man's like using his name and identity in this article.
Holy
He's already
shit.
homeless. They're going to
Holy
arrest
shit.
him.
He definitely shouldn't have
So,
He should not have done that. But I mean, also, I'm sure he's a homeless veteran, so I'm guessing not too many people are jumping to put him behind bars.
not
so
jumping to give him a house either.
Exactly. So, yeah. How about we support those troops? How about that? How
saying.
about that?
You support the troops or don't you?
an energy. Okay. I think I found him.
Uh-oh. We're over there sleuthing.
Wallen is the last name.
Wallen.
Is he single or does he have single children?
No, you wanna marry this
Why are
racist?
you-
Because I could
what?
I'm just making assumptions.
I'm not going to assume his children are racist.
I am
gotta
assuming a
assume.
lot.
I'm not going to assume his children are racist. That's
certainly
rude.
can.
Wallen and Stassi Scott have both
Stassi
owned
sounds
it.
like a racist.
I was going to say that just kind of sounds German, but then I realized
Stassi,
that all might also
Stalin.
be...
Draw the line.
Exactly. Yeah. Wake up, people.
Wake up, sheeple.
Oh my god, I really want to know. Lalaurie Mansion.
Well, I appreciate... You have, like, so many notes there.
I did like
told a really
4 or
good
5,
story.
and I didn't even talk about all of it because there was so much more. Like, I did talk about a lot of it, but yeah, I have a section called "How Did No One Know?" and it's just me rant. Did the house not smell? How did one woman hang up and perform experiments alone? 2 daughters lived in the house and her husband. Like, what? Daughters allegedly tried to free the slaves. I call BS. Those are my notes.
Yeah.
Like, it.
Try harder, ladies.
Yes. Okay, so Stassen Scott apparently did buy the house, and he said he was very creeped out by it. I can't find his first name. But he said, I prayed about this house. And he said he wore holy water like it was his perfume whenever he walked in. But he still bought that shit.
It's like if you have to do that.
Exactly. He still bought it and remodeled it, though. Like,
Well,
he's
I think-
like, this is tough, but I'm going to do it.
Well, I probably, at this point, even though the city doesn't own it, I'm sure it's a historical marker, so you can't tear it down at this point. I would assume.
It might be.
Because
Yeah.
even just for the French Quarter, like,
up
you're
a
gonna
plaque.
That's
tear
true. Most of the
it down and do
buildings.
what?
Put
Yeah.
up a flag. That's what they do in Germany and all
Exact-
those places
Yeah,
where they
burn that
had,
shit to the
like,
ground.
Where people were hiding in floorboards and shit. They put plaques in all of those places so nobody forgets. But get
Can't
rid of
argue
it.
with
But get rid. I don't. Yeah, it's okay. It's now owned by Michael Wallen, who commissioned Houston. Okay, so that's the designer. The designer is Stassi's. What did I say? Stassi Scott.
Gotcha.
He is the designer who was hired by Michael Wallen, who now owns it, a Houston oil tycoon.
Mm.
So they've redecorated. I'm sure it's lovely.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm sure it's totally going to be on an episode of Fixer Upper.
Well,
What could Joanna do with these?
what are the games? We're at Chip and Joanna when you need them.
What window fixtures can we put in?
Can we get
here?
some shiplap put up and some very antique-y looking beds?
I like an open concept.
Oh, God. I cannot tell you how much I fucking hate an open concept. Like, I've been looking at houses and dreaming recently, and, like, an
Yeah.
open floor plan is my worst
That's nice.
fucking nightmare.
Pretty nice.
No, it's the worst. I need a wall between my kitchen and my living room.
No, you don't.
Because when you cook,
You want to
the
be able
smells permeate your
to,
whole
also
house.
want
Like,
to
it's
be able
just...
to talk to the people in the living room while you cook.
Yeah,
No,
make it smell good. How about
Who's at my
you
house
use
while I'm cooking?
Your house should be smelling like pasta all the time.
garlic? Lots of garlic.
Thank you.
I don't want my house to smell like garlic all the time. I don't need that in my, like, furniture fibers.
I love me some garlic.
It's gonna keep you alive.
Goddamn an open floor plan.
This was intense.
Well, thanks. So you believe then in ghosts?
Oh yeah, and I don't know that I do think I have experienced. Like I'm a very spiritual person. I don't know that I've ever been like haunted by a ghost. I'll say that. But I do think that I have experienced like glimpses or presence of people either that I know or people that were in my family line or like somehow related to me. Like I do think that I have experienced that because like when I'm feeling confused or even just like feeling depressed or anxious, I might like ask for guidance. And I will just literally ask my ancestors and just say, like, help me, you know, what should I do? And I do feel like I get, like, knowledge from them. And so I definitely believe in that stuff. I have not myself had a paranormal experience, especially not with someone I didn't know. Like, I've never had, you know what I mean? Like, I've never gone to a haunted place and experienced a ghost that I didn't know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, believing in, like, angels and believing in ghosts is kind of the same thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think...
Because I feel like that's what you're talking about.
Yes, yeah, and that's how I see them, too, as sort of like guardian angels, I guess. I've definitely experienced guardian angels, if that's, like, what you want to call it. Mm-hmm. But I do not think I have experienced a haunting of like, maybe someone that I didn't know or, you know, an event that I wasn't aware of. Like, I've not experienced that. No. I wish.
I'll take the angels.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with angels.
Like
Thank
angels.
you. Thank you, angels.
Thank you, angels.
Thank you, ancestors. Keep watching out for me. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
I have avoided so many accidents because of my guardian angel.
Yeah, seriously.
Or what I attribute to be, because I definitely probably should have been dead by now.
Fucking same.
I'm a good driver, though, for the most part. It's just always
man.
other people's fault. I mean, you
Sure.
run a few stop signs.
Yeah.
And
How
suddenly,
many accidents have you been in?
None that I caused. I have been rear-ended
good.
3 times.
See, I had like 3 experiences where I found myself driving on the wrong side of the road, all in construction areas. It was not just I'm driving on the wrong side of the road for no reason. It was all confusing construction areas that I haven't been in before. And it happened 3 times in a row. And after that 3rd time, I was like, the next time I had to drive somewhere, I texted my friend. I was like, will you pick me up? Because I feel like someone's trying to tell me something and I don't feel comfortable driving right now.
Yeah.
Like, so...
I'm good for driving down a one-way street the wrong way.
Yeah, no, I did.
Well,
That was the
that's
first time it happened. I turned down
yes.
a one-way street in downtown that had construction on it, and I was just like, there were cars passing me on,
They're
like,
so mad,
you know,
like they've never done it before.
yeah, exactly. Oh, like you haven't. Okay.
Some empathy.
My thing is when I see people doing it on purpose, it just enrages me. Like the fucking, like just the arrogance of not giving a fuck that you're driving down the wrong side of the road or down a one-way street just because you have to get to your destination.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, it's very important that they are on time.
They're busy and important.
Much more important than your life.
Yeah, you're
Naturally.
going nowhere.
Listen, I'll just be late for work because I'm usually late anyway. So
Samesies. Hope my boss doesn't listen to this podcast. He is a good Christian man.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for that amazing story. Is there anything else you would like to? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Do you have anything else you wanted to talk about or add?
I don't think so. I think that the easiest answer is the best answer, and I think that this woman was a racist sadist, and that haunted that building for a while. And now, hopefully, those spirits have been put to rest.
Yes.
Still a fucking creepy house, and I want it to be burnt down. But I can't wait to go to New Orleans again.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. That was an amazing story.
Thank you.
And really appreciate it. So do you, would you like to plug any... Do you want to plug your social media? Do you want people to follow you or any other websites or projects that you work on?
follow me on please follow me on Instagram. It's Alle is the best, but Alle is spelled Alle, the best. And on Twitter, I'm actually Alle is the worst, because I never post on Twitter. So
Nice.
Alle.
Well, Twitter is
The
also
worst.
the worst.
Twitter is the worst.
I love it, but it is the worst.
I love it. I hate it. I can scroll through it for hours, and then I don't go on it for 2 months. Like, it is just the weirdest medium ever. And then Facebook, yeah, Alle Malia Mims.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
This was fun. Hope you had fun.
I had so much fun. I'm drunk.
Oh, good. All right. Well, then we will talk to you next time. I don't know how to end these things yet, so it's fine.
I will see
I'll
you
figure
soon.
it out. I'll see you soon when you're sleeping on my air mattress.
Yay, don't drink and drive.
No. Thank you for listening to Boosed. Our theme was composed by Vincent Parrish. Sound production is done by Sydnee Johnson. You can find us on social media at Boosed Pod. That's BOOSED Pod. If you would like to support the show, please go to patreon.com/boostpod to make a contribution. Thank you for listening. And don't forget, get boozed.